Good morning. It is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. And we ended chapter 1 last week. And I just want to read the end of that chapter as we head into chapter 2. You will come to see that the mind talks all the time because you gave it a job to do. You use it as a protection mechanism, a form of defense. Ultimately, it makes you feel more secure. As long as that's what you want, you will be forced to constantly use your mind to buffer yourself from life instead of living it. This world is unfolding and really has little to do with you and your thoughts. This world is unfolding and really has little to do with you and your thoughts. It was here long before you came, and it will be here long after you leave. In the name of attempting to hold the world together, you're really just trying to hold yourself together. True personal growth is about transcending the part of you that is not okay and needs protection. What are you hearing in those statements? Anyone? Hello?
I'm hearing that your mind is always going.
Right?
That you talk yourself into things or out of things.
Okay.
Will
That
you
we
read that
use
last
our-
sentence again? Sorry.
Anyone else?
That we use our thoughts. I'm thinking I'm using my thoughts to bring sense to the outer world when really it has nothing to do with that, because the outer world's going to be the outer world, and it's really what I'm trying to make sense of inside.
Reality has little to do with your thoughts. Open up and start seeing what is, not your version of what is. Chapter 2, your inner roommate. Your inner growth is completely dependent upon the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. Your inner growth is completely dependent upon the realization that the only way to find peace and contentment is to stop thinking about yourself. You're ready to grow when you finally realize that the I, who is always talking inside, will never be content. It always has a problem with something. Honestly, when was the last time you really had nothing bothering you? Before you had your current problem, there was a different problem. And if you're wise, you will realize that after this one's gone, there will be another one. How many of you are stewing over something right now? Anyone?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's too many choices.
And what were we stewing about before that problem? What were we stewing about before that problem?
Another
Something
problem.
else.
Another problem. And how many of you are stewing about something that hasn't even happened yet?
Correct.
I know many of you, listen, I know many of you are stewing about this year already. Oh my God, what's going to happen this year? The bottom line is you'll never be free of problems until you are free from the part within that has so many problems. When a problem is disturbing you, don't ask, what should I do about it? Ask, what part of me is being disturbed by this? If you ask, what should I do about it? You have already fallen into believing that there really is a problem outside that must be dealt with. If you want to achieve peace in the face of your problems, you must understand why you perceive a particular situation as a problem. Great example. Many of you are already worried about this year and your production this year and how you're going to do production. Would I be wrong to assume that in any way?
Not at all.
And do you have any control over your production this year?
Very little.
Very little is the correct answer. What you control is what?
What you do.
Right. You control your attitude and what you do every day and the effort that you give. And yet, what do you stew about every day?
What's going to happen this year?
The
What
result.
everybody isn't doing.
You stew about the result. That's what you stew about. As if somehow you thinking about things is going to change how the world is going to operate. If you want to achieve peace in the face of your problems, you must understand why you perceive a particular situation as a problem. If you're feeling jealousy, instead of trying to see how you can protect yourself, just ask, what part of me is jealous? That will cause you to look inside and see that there's a part of you that's having a problem with jealousy. Once you clearly see the disturbed part, then ask, who is it that sees this? Who notices this inner disturbance? Asking this is the solution to every problem. The fact that you can see the disturbance means that you are not it. The process of seeing something requires a subject-object relationship. The subject is called the witness because it is the one who sees what's happening. The object is what you are seeing. In this case, the inner disturbance. The act of maintaining objective awareness of the inner problem is always better than losing yourself in the outer situation. This is the essential difference between a spiritually minded person and a worldly person. Worldly doesn't mean that you have money or statue. Worldly means that you think the solution to your inner problems is in the world outside. Worldly means that you think the solution to your inner problems is in the world outside. You think that if you change things outside, you'll be okay. But nobody has ever truly become okay by changing things outside. There's always the next problem. The only real solution is to take the seat of witness consciousness and completely change your frame of reference. To attain true inner freedom, you must be able to objectively watch your problems instead of being lost in them. No solution can possibly exist while you're lost in the energy of a problem. Everyone knows you can't deal well with a situation if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. The first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction. You will not be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you inside. Problems are generally not what they appear to be. When you get clear enough, you will realize that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. When you believe that being you is not good enough, when you believe that being you is not good enough, what happens?
You start finding external factors that justify that thought.
You start playing the superhero role.
Everything is now a problem, correct?
Yes.
And you think the answer is what?
Outside.
You think the answer is doing more, achieving more, attaining more,
Yeah.
only to find out what?
It's on the inside.
That if you were to achieve more, you still feel what?
Not good enough.
Satisfied.
Being you isn't good enough.
Unsatisfied, yeah.
Everyone knows you can't deal with the situation if you're getting anxious, scared, or angry about it. The first problem you have to deal with is your own reaction. You will not be able to solve anything outside until you own how the situation affects you inside. And this relates directly to something I've been saying over and over again for the past couple of weeks, which is what?
Separate your emotions of the situation from the situation.
You got to separate your emotional reaction to a situation from a situation. The problem for most of you is your reaction to a situation, not the situation itself. A lot of you are stressed out right now about not being able to make contacts. Am I wrong about that? Stephanie?
No, you're not wrong.
And it's your reaction to the idea of making contacts that's getting in your way. Because you're worried about what?
Not hitting my goal.
You're worried about who to contact. And can I make enough contacts? And they're the right contacts. And yesterday, how can I convert these contacts? I came up with a good answer, by the way. Would you be opposed to hearing it?
Go ahead.
Take them all to church and convert them there. Well, it's sort of a good joke.
That's funny.
I was on mute laughing.
Me too.
You can't go to church though.
What church is this?
Church of Holy Contacts. You haven't been there?
I'm Googling it now.
Problems are generally not what they appear to be. When you get clear enough, you will realize that the real problem is that there is something inside of you that can have a problem with almost anything. The first step is to deal with that part of you. This involves a change from outer solution consciousness to inner solution consciousness. You have to break the habit of thinking that the solution to your problems is to rearrange things outside. Your core belief that being you isn't good enough is not going to go away by rearranging the outside world. Your core belief that being you isn't good enough is not going to change by you rearranging the outside world, meaning listing more, selling more, making more, doing more. That will do nothing to the core belief that being you isn't good enough. The reason all of you are worried about not being able to make enough contacts is not being able to make enough contacts. The real reason is you believe that being you isn't good enough. And that's what you have to work on. That's what you have to work on. Because until that changes, it doesn't make a difference how many contacts you make. The only permanent solution to your problems is to go inside and let go of the part of you that seems to have so many problems with reality. Once you do that, you'll be clear enough to deal with what's left. Again, rather than working on getting the world to bend to your inner desires, just show up every day, see what is, hear what is, feel what is, recognize what is, and respond to what is. None of it is a problem. None of it. And it's all going to be what it's all going to be. End of story. You and your thoughts have little to do with what's happening in the world. There really is a way to let go of the part of you that sees everything as a problem. It may seem impossible, but it's not. There's a part of your being that can actually abstract from your own melodrama. You can watch yourself be jealous or angry. You don't have to think about it or analyze it. You can just be aware of it. Who is it that sees all this? Who notices the changes going on inside? When you tell a friend, every time I talk to Tom, it gets me so upset. How do you know it gets you upset? You know that it gets you upset because you're in there and you see what's going on in there. There's separation between you and the anger or jealousy. You are the one who's in there noticing those things. Once you take a seat of consciousness, you can get rid of these personal disturbances. You start by watching. Just be aware that you are aware of what is going on in there. It's easy. What you'll notice is that you're watching a human being's personality with all its strengths and weaknesses. It's as though there's somebody in there with you. You might actually say you have a roommate. If you would like to meet your roommate, just try to sit inside yourself for a while in complete solitude and silence. You have the right. It's your inner domain. But instead of finding silence, you're going to listen to incessant chatter. Why am I doing this? I have more important things to do. This is a waste of time. There's nobody in here but me. What's this all about? Right on cue, there's your roommate. You may have a clear intention to be quiet inside, but your roommate won't cooperate. And it's not just when you try to be quiet. It has something to say about everything that you look at. I like it. I don't like it. This is good. That's bad. It just talks and talks. You don't generally notice because you don't step back from it. You're so close that you don't realize that you're actually hypnotized into listening to it. Basically, you're not alone in there. There are two distinct aspects of your inner being. The first is you, the awareness, the witness, the center of your willful intentions. And the other is that which you watch. The problem is the part that you watch never shuts up. If you could get rid of that part, even for a moment, the peace and serenity would be the nicest vacation you've ever had. Imagine what it would be like if you didn't have to bring this thing with you everywhere you go. Real spiritual growth is about getting out of this predicament. But first, you have to realize that you've been locked in there with a maniac. In any situation or circumstance, your roommate could suddenly decide, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk to this person. You would immediately feel tense and uncomfortable. Your roommate can ruin anything you're doing without a moment's notice. It could ruin your wedding day or even your wedding night. The part of you can ruin anything and everything, and it generally does. So what are you hearing in that?
I've been locked within myself with a maniac.
Okay.
Self-sabotage.
You're probably getting some real bad advice.
The idea this week is to start paying attention, just paying attention. Stop trying to figure anything out. Just notice where the inner disturbance is coming from. And most of it is coming from the core belief that being you isn't good enough. And you'll be amazed at what happens when you let go of that belief. So observe your roommate this week. The person who's always out of sorts, always upset, always frustrated, always confused, always anxious, always scared, always on edge. Just be aware. Just be aware. And let
Steve, is
all
it
go.
in,
Go ahead.
is it in the Untethered Soul where it says that when you hear that voice to acknowledge it by saying hello?
I don't remember that specifically.
Yes,
It
it
does
is.
say, it does say you can make it talk to confirm that that's your inner voice.
You
Have it
say
things.
hello, hello, hello.
So again, just be more aware of your roommate this week. Be more aware of the voice. And remember, you and your thoughts have very little to do with what's actually happening in the world. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye.